Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast, powered by the DC4L Network. I'm Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And joining us again for the second week is the co-founder or founder of DC4L, Miss Amanda Foster. Thank you for joining us again tonight.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, I see the views are jumping up pretty quickly. So if you're watching right now, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time here, be sure to leave us your name and where you're watching from in the comments. This is an interactive show, and we love your questions, comments, and overall feedback. And also, if you haven't done so already, be sure to go to the DC4L Facebook group and hit that button to follow and like. A lot of great dialogue goes on in that group. A lot of giveaways, a lot of prizes. And if you're watching on YouTube, until we get that DC4L YouTube channel up, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Bluff City Cowboys. Hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell for notifications on future episodes. Okay, I see we got a couple people joining us again. We got the Lunatic joining again. So appreciate you tuning in. I see Jeff came in early with the comments. Jeff, thank you for joining. Unfortunately, Jeff,
Hey, Jeff.
we don't have a prize this week, so I know what you were doing, trying to build the comments up. We will have a prize next week.
Smart.
Yeah.
We will.
He's trying to catch on, but yeah, next week we will have a prize for you guys. So keep the same energy this week, Jeff, and follow it up for next week as well. I always appreciate what you got to say. And we got the Lunatic joining us from the South Texas, the heart of Cowboys country. Got a lot of people watching. So once again, be sure to get in the comments. Let us know you're there. As you guys know, we try to keep this show as close to an hour as possible. Got a lot of great content to talk about. A lot of great feedback from you guys. So we can definitely get into it. And thank you to Lunatic. The content itself is the prize.
Hey.
We definitely appreciate that. And Jeff joking saying he's leaving.
Oh, he's not going nowhere. You and I both know that.
Oh, yeah. So I see right now we got 23 viewers, but we only have 2 likes. So wherever you're watching from, be sure to hit that like button, hit that heart, hit that thumbs down. Any type of engagement is positive for us to let us know what you think and to keep the Fifth Quarter Podcast rolling. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Got a lot to talk about. Before we talk about this week's game against the Giants, we got to look back at a disappointing week against the Philadelphia Eagles in a hard-fought matchup. So we'll start the show off with our game recap.
Game recap.
Oh, as you guys know, had a very disappointing loss down to the last play. Lost the game with a final score of 23-28. Very competitive matchup, very entertaining overall. But we ended up coming up short at the very end. Got a couple of notes that I just want to go through. And we don't spend a lot of time on this because by the time you guys get to Wednesday nights, I know your emotions have gone on a roller coaster. You've probably gone through a dozen different podcasts, 100 different tweets and posts and comments about this game. So we just try to hit you with a few high points of our thoughts, and then we move on. So first of all, let me just hit you with a couple of offensive notes that I have from this game, just things that stood out to me. The inside zone is not working. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we kind of went more to an inside zone scheme this year, where instead of kind of blocking a guy, you're just blocking an area. So you're kind of taking that first step inside, and whoever you run into, that's the guy you're blocking. It's led to a lot of missed blocks. I think that's one of the problems with our running game, particularly from their center position and their left guard position. Tyler Smith is great when it's a guy head up on him. Very few can overpower him. But when it comes to that inside blocking zone scheme where he has to take a step inside and kind of reach for a guy, he has a tendency to consistently miss. Same thing with Tyler Biadasz. Hopefully next year they look more into what I like to call a bob, a Bob scheme, which is big on big, more of a power running game where you got your big guys on your big guys, and whoever gets free goes to the second level. And just speaking on what I just said about Tyler Smith, the Smith boys were rolling Sunday night. Tyler and Tyron. It was a sight to see if you guys are good into good offensive line play. I mean, Tyler Smith outside of one or two plays, he was just stonewalling guys. Like you get 2 steps and you're stopped in your tracks, and that's as far as you're going. And Tyron on the left side was just rad.
Woo!
He was rad dogging ends. It was
Man, there was a play. There was one play where I looked up and like he just pushed someone to the ground. It was just, I don't know what play. I can't think. I was thinking early in the third quarter, but I was like, dang, Tyron came to play. And I really think that setting him the next, and not practicing him is really going to be good for him. I think that's going to be really important. I think that's going to keep him healthy. So
yeah.
I want more of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those guys were really playing, and you heard the news. They're talking about letting him sit out during practice and then just play on game day, a la Plexico Burris 2014, I believe, during that giant Super Bowl run. I'm not against that.
Not at all. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He keeps getting injured in practice. Let him sit.
Mhm.
Let him do the walkthrough, and then just let him watch. Do some weights. That's all we need. He knows what he's doing.
Exactly. I mean, I'd rather him sit all week and play on Sundays than, like you said, get injured on Tuesday. He sits out all week during practice, and then we're all just kind of sitting on our hands waiting to see what their final injury report says.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So last point before we move on to defensive notes. It's quite evident over the past couple of weeks. Our main focal points on this offense are CeeDee Lamb and our tight ends, particularly Jake Ferguson. Schoonmaker starting to make his presence known as well. Our wide receivers have left a lot to be desired. Dak has done a great job the past 2 weeks finding guys on scramble drills. But when it comes to just reads and progressions and a regular route being ran, they're really not up to par at this point. So I think it showed a lot this week that's the focus we're going in, and hopefully that's the way it continues moving forward, because Jake Ferguson has really proven that he is a legitimate NFL tight end with the ability to
100.
catch the ball and get a lot of yards after catch.
Well, and CeeDee Lamb with 191 yards. That is just impressive.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, he's been
he
on the
said,
tear the last 3 weeks.
well, he said, who said I wasn't a number one wide receiver? And he said, let me show you I'm the number one.
And also, we give a lot of flack to Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer. You got to give those guys respect. They're moving him around and allowing him to get put in situations to get open, which is something we
Yes.
see at all from a Kellen Morse game.
Well, one thing I really enjoy, I love watching his footwork lately. I can see, memories of Amari Cooper in there, little touches of things he used to do, and it makes my heart happy.
Yeah,
Since we let him go for, a dollar hamburger and a small fry.
right.
At least CD's coming on.
And Sydney Bryan, thank you for joining. Sydney Byron, my mistake. I see your comment. That is a part of our next segment, so just stick with us, and we'll get to it in a second. I got to get through my defensive notes really quick, and then we'll move the show along. On the defensive side of the ball, not a lot of negative things to look at, but just things that really stood out to me. Number one, people give Jordan Lewis a lot of flack. Jordan Lewis is a solid NFL corner. Where he comes into a problem at is when teams line up tight ends in the slot, and for some reason, which I do not understand, you have J-Ron Curse, who's been a tight end eliminator his entire career in Dallas. They allow linebackers and Jordan Lewis in particular to get lined up against tight ends, and he's getting torched. And then this past week, I talked about this on the show before, where the Eagles will run a set where they have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on the same side, and they're kind of interchangeable on who's outside and who's in the slot. Well, whenever they had A.J. Brown in the slot, they still let Jordan Lewis cover him. And even though AJ Brown didn't get a lot of yardage, a lot of his catches came on Jordan Lewis just because he wasn't big enough. And I feel like watching the way he was getting the ball thrown to him, if we would have had one of our starting corners on him, I think the situation would have been a lot different than it turned out. And we could have stopped a lot more of his catches, even though he had like 55 yards. He had 6 catches, and I would probably say 4 of them were on Lewis. So definitely got to let our corners do a better job of following because we play so much man.
Agreed.
Looking at the defensive line, especially on the end, when we just have D-Lo out there in one spot and you got Micah in the other spot, I mean, Micah does his thing, but it's not as effective as when they do a heavy rotation. When
Yes.
when you start to see Dorrance Armstrong get out there and Fowler and on occasion Sam Williams, and you allow Micah to get moved around, it's a completely different pass rush than when you just got D-Lo on one side and Micah on the other. So they have to continue to rotate those defensive ends, in my opinion,
I
inside
agree.
and out, especially
Yeah,
on
it keeps
third
them
down.
fresh. Yeah, it keeps them fresh. There's no reason not to do it too. I mean, that's we are so deep. It's idiotic to not keep rotating. So
Yeah, and like I just said, D-Law's a great defensive end, one of the best in the league. Pass rushing is not his strong suit unless he plays against the Giants. When he plays the Giants, he probably gets 4 sacks a year, and he probably has 7 sacks total for the whole year.
then he's excited for this week.
I'm sure very excited, and we'll talk about that once we get the key matchups. But you got to allow some edges to get in that spot and rotate more because those right tackles are usually the disadvantage spot, particularly when you got Micah Parsons with all that attention. And we have some guys who are some great pass rushers, like Fowler. Fowler's a great pass rusher.
Yes.
Dorrance Armstrong is a great pass rusher. You got to get those guys in the rotation, like you said, keep them fresh. Offensive linemen don't rotate, defensive linemen do. So you got to take advantage of having guys who are fresh and who are great at what they do. And just like Jeff said, you put Micah in the middle, he's been pretty much unstoppable these past 2 weeks. Last note, and then we'll move forward. I talk about this every week, and I know people say we're not seeing much from Mozzie Smith. Pay attention to Jonathan Hankins, guys. I'm telling you, this dude is killing in the run game in
He's
that
taking
big gap.
he's taking Mozzie snaps away. He is destroying folks out there. It is impressive. It
Very
really makes
impressive.
it makes that pick seem a little, but no one expected
Yeah.
him to grow this much. He took a huge leap from what we saw last year.
Exactly. And I made a tweet about this a couple of days ago when people were just really kind of bashing Mozzie. And I said, you have to look at where the team was pre-draft. We had guys love Bohanna, but Bohanna is just a guy, just honestly. Neville Gallimore is often injured, and he's been underperforming. And that's pretty much all we had. Jonathan Hankins was hurt half of last year.
Right.
We had to make a move for a defensive tackle. Now, do I agree Mozzie was the right choice in the first round was the right choice? I would say no, but the team had to make a move. And nobody saw that Jonathan Hankins will have a healthy year and end up being probably a top 5 defensive tackle at 32 years old.
Did we give him a 1 or a 2 year on that contract we just gave him? It was 1, wasn't it?
Hankins,
or was it
yeah.
2?
No, it was 1. Yeah.
I thought so.
So yeah, Mozzie's gonna get his time, and he's gonna have to show us and come in and prove it. And before we move on, I gotta say this about Mozzie. The lunatic saying, yeah, Hank has been telling Mozzie, watch and learn, Rook. Yep. One thing Hankins needs to teach Mozzie: do not be the last person off the snap. That is so annoying when you watch everybody fire off the ball and Mozzie's still in his stance. But he doesn't get beat is the weird thing. So that lets you know if he can just get that fire off on the snap of the ball 0.2 of a second, we're going to have a good player. Because right now he's the last one off and you never see him get pushed out of a hole. So that I'm looking forward forward to seeing next year if they get somebody to work with them. But Hankins has just been that dude. And then we can talk another 20 minutes about all the stuff Osa does that he doesn't get a lot of credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Jeff Gallimore's still on the team. He's playing 20% of the snaps. You look at the defensive tackle room, it's pretty much Mozzie and Gallimore playing about 20%. Hankins is playing about 45%. And then you got Chauncey Golston playing at about 15%. And one more thing, Hankins is playing on third downs, which he doesn't provide pass rush, but he's taking up guys to open up stuff in the middle from Micah Parsons. So he's doing an overall great job for this team. Now, I know I said a lot, Amanda. Anything else I missed and anything you want to touch base on?
Well, I want to make a point that A.J. Brown was held to how many yards? What was it, 66, 61?
I believe it was 60-something.
I know it was under 125, and I knew that was going to happen, and that's impressive. And I just want to say, for anyone still upset about that game, you look at the talent that this team went out there and put up on the field with what people are saying is the best team in the league. I don't know if I necessarily agree. They have the best record. But watching Philly play does not impress me. It is not something that I'm impressed with. They're okay, but they got a lot of really ridiculous breaks. And I'm not one to say that a lot, but there was some ridiculous calls on that field. It's just like when Schoon was getting like when the Schoon was short. Well, yeah, because of the pass interference before. I mean, they were tackling him before the ball got to him. We all know what that is. That's not allowed. That'd be called any other day, but it wasn't then. That's why it was short.
Yep.
So I look at the way our team performed against the best team, and I'm really excited for where this team's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And this came down to the final seconds, and you take away those ridiculous calls, and we beat ourselves. Philadelphia did not beat us. We beat ourselves. And that's something that really gives me hope moving forward. And the Eagles have a really, really tough stretch coming up after this bye week.
Yep.
I think it's the Chiefs, the Bills. Hold on, Chiefs, Bills. I can't remember who's after the Bills, but then they play us again. And there's a good chance that when we face them again, that we're going to be playing for the division. So I look at our schedule moving forward and theirs, and I'm not discouraged. I think we are the better team, and I think we proved it on the field. They may have the better breaks, but I really do think we can hang with any of these teams that are the better teams in the league. So that gives me hope. And I wasn't really too discouraged watching this game because it was a hard-fought game, and it was just a few, you know what I mean? We almost won. I know almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. We know that. Right. But I'm really excited for the future, and our team is coming on at the right time. And I think that's important. So barring injury, I think we can make a really good run as long as we play consistently. And we've been doing that the past 3 weeks. So.
Yeah. And Janine Garibaldi asked, your son-in-law asked, what do we do to tick off the refs? The better question would be, what are the Eagles doing to get so many favorable calls? Because I don't know if you're aware. The week before, they didn't have a penalty called on them, correct? Was that the week before?
They did not. It was against the Washington, right? They didn't have one. Was it against Washington?
That was the week before, yeah. Yeah, so for a team to not have not one flag on the road, that is ridiculous. That's something
Well, obviously, we've all seen the video, right? We all know what I'm about to say. Obviously, you just got to let someone rub on you a little bit and you get the calls to go your way. I could not believe. I've never seen that in my life. That's some crazy stuff. I've never seen a ref touch a player like that. And I don't mean that to be bizarre. It's just I've never, because that automatically makes anyone watching the game go, huh? Like that would make you wonder what's going on. It made me wonder. It's just bizarre. So we'll see. We got to face them again, and I don't think they'll beat us at home.
Yep. So before we move on, I got to talk about this because just so much to talk about in this game. Last week, when we have a victory, I like to name a player of the game. But when we have a loss, I like to talk about the good and the bad. So, Amanda, you want to start with the good first or the bad? I'm pretty sure you know what they both are, but which one you want to start off with?
Okay, so let's start. Okay, I am going to get the bad out there. I don't know what has happened to Terrence Steele, but that is the absolute most
pressure on Prescott.
Like 12 pressures? Like, how is Dak supposed to throw? Like, and we never made adjustments to get back to have someone pick up that right side and help. No
Mhm.
one came to help. Mike didn't do anything. At least put Pollard over there to pick up a chip. I don't understand what we were thinking, but Terrence has regressed so bad. That's the biggest negative impact on this game. That was the worst thing, was watching the pressure. It was terrible.
Yeah, overall, that was a very bad game from Terrence Steele. Just
Terrible.
looking at the tape, I mean, I can't even explain like what was going on. I mean, it looked like at 1 minute he was afraid of getting beat on the edge. They beat him on the edge. Then he started overcompensating for getting beat on the edge. They started taking inside on him. I mean, it was ridiculous.
It was
Now,
bad.
the I want to give some blame to the coaching staff for not sending help over there. But when I look at the game, you talk about the good. Let me see if this one works. The good with Jake Ferguson. I mean, the dude was all over the field. He was
Yeah.
clearly our number two. If not for the insane game CeeDee Lamb had, Jake Ferguson would have been the player of the game. So I understand them not keeping him in to block. I would have liked to see more 12 personnel to take one of those other wide receivers that wasn't doing anything out and
Well,
maybe bring in a Schoonmaker to help block
or
on that
or,
side.
or either Hunter Lupke, I think is how it's pronounced. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
just don't understand why we're not using him. I mean, we saw the struggle. Terrence, I mean, we would have won this game if they would have corrected and put someone over there to help Terrence. I think
Right.
anyone can agree with that. There is no reason, like, this is on the coach. I mean, it's just simple. It's simple facts. Mike should have picked it up. If we can pick it up and sit here and look and say this was an issue and you could see it during the game. I mean, look at that last play. What was it? Was there 3 sacks on that
Yep.
last play, or was it 2? 2
Two.
or 3, and
Two
it
and a
all came
penalty.
from the same.
It
Yeah,
was two and a penalty.
it was all from the same side, so there was just it situational play calling, and that's, that it always
Yeah.
comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, the Lunatic, I will say this. I had a video, but it malfunctioned on me. That's what happens when you have live
Oh,
TV.
no.
He got beat on critical plays, but he got beat a lot in that game. I mean, if you look at some of the plays, there were some plays that Dak made the play by himself because Steele was beating out the snap. Luckily, it were plays where Dak was looking on that side. If not, Dak would have probably had about 2 fumbles in that game because the guys were just coming wide open. We counted 4 plays that what you would call critical moments. There were probably about 7 in total where Steele just got completely beat off the snap. And luckily, Dak started moving and making some stuff happen with his legs.
Can we talk about that real quick too?
Yeah, talk
Dak
about
has
that.
started Let's talk about how Dak started. I don't know what happened, but I guess it was the game against the Chargers. Something went off either in Dak's head or Mike has said, "Okay, here you go, Dak." Like something happened. I don't know what it was because of course I'm not in on the inside to know. But something made Dak Prescott start using those legs again. And we have seen an improved team since. And our offense is improving because when you're one dimensional, it's easy to scheme for you. It's just the way football works. And we all know that. If a quarterback is, more of a pocket presence and he doesn't move his legs and doesn't use them, then we know that it's super easy to scheme for him, get him on the ground. But when Dak uses those legs, our offense is soaring. And I'm just super excited. Those scramble plays, those were sexy. And I know people think that's silly for me to say, but really, when you look at it, it was sexy football to watch him use his legs the way he does because it opens up the offense. And I'm just excited to see that moving forward because then we're not predictable. And that's the
Yeah.
most important thing to me. So I want to see more of that. That's the Dak from 2016 that we haven't had in a really long time. And it's definitely the Dak that we haven't seen since injury. So I really hope we start seeing more of that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And the Lunatic, this is a great point with the whole Chuma Edoga eligible. I mean, somebody dropped the ball right there. Either he didn't make the call or the side ref that he told didn't tell the head ref so that he could make the announcement over the speakers. And if
I saw
so,
Dak verify. We've seen the
Right.
video. I posted it. Dak verified with the ref pointing at Chuma. I don't understand. That makes no sense either.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, but somebody should have said something about it not being announced because if it's not announced, technically it didn't happen by the head ref. Going through the comments, I see I had my guy one of my fellow Memphis podcasters from the Big Time Show, Bishop Douglas Brooks, joining us. So if you're still there, Douglas, sorry we had a lot to talk about, but thank you for joining us today. We definitely got to get you on the Fifth Quarter podcast at some point in the future to talk a little Cowboys football. I see we got Yvonne Lopez joining us again. Thank you for tuning in. And Derek Richardson Sr. asking, where's Bluff City at? Bluff City is that's another name for Memphis, Tennessee. It's called the Bluff City. So I'm based out of Memphis, Tennessee right now. All right, so we're putting the Eagles to bed. We're moving on, and we're going to talk about this upcoming matchup against the New York Giants. But before we do, we're at 26 minutes. Couple of stories to talk about that happened between the Cowboys and the Giants. So let's jump into it with some storylines for this week's game.
Storylines.
All right, so storyline in Cowboys land. The Cowboys signed wide receiver Martavis Bryant. I'm very familiar with him. As you guys know, I'm a big Clemson fan. So I've been watching him pretty much since 2011 when he was on that loaded Clemson roster. Great height, weight, speed guy. Watched him play a little bit. I believe was in the USFL. He still got the height, weight, speed. Most of his problems were above the shoulders throughout his career. Sounds like he's worked out some of those demons, and he's going to try to come back and revitalize his career for the 1 or 2 years he has left. Amanda, what do you think about this signing and this player in particular, if you know anything about him?
Well, I know it made a lot of people really upset. I do know that a lot of people looked around and they were like, "Why are we signing another wide receiver?" And I don't, I can think of it. Maybe it's to put Gallup on notice, but you look at his contract, you go to over the cap and look at what that is. It really would be. I'd be hard pressed to think what we can really get out of Michael's contract. It's pretty bad. It was a ridiculous contract to give someone anyway.
Yeah.
The guy's fast, and I really like that he can go up and compete with the ball. We don't really have someone. I mean, we've got some speed guys. Cooks is fast. Gallup used to go up for the ball. He doesn't anymore. So this guy's got ups. I don't really know why. I don't understand the why of it, but I mean, they saw something because they wouldn't even let him get on the plane to go work out for another team.
Yeah.
So there's something that they saw when they, during that workout. So I'm excited to see it. And he wasn't bad. I think he had like 44 receptions over his career. Maybe it was pretty. I mean, it wasn't bad, but he hadn't played in 5 years. So we got to see.
Yeah.
It'll all really depend.
The interesting thing with his career, I think like 1 in every 3 catches was a touchdown. So the guy's a touchdown maker. He has a 6'9" wingspan at 6'3". So
Ooh.
you got a guy with some long arms, some big hands, who runs a 4.4 and can get up there and get the ball. Now, I thought it was interesting, like you said, why they signed him. I mean, it's a practice squad signing. So if he never plays a down of football for the Cowboys, they're out of less than $100,000 for the year at this point. We got a couple of wide receivers on the practice squad, but they haven't done anything. And like you said, it puts Gallup on notice because even if this guy doesn't play a snap, you're going to see him in practice every week. And if he performs the way I think he can, if his head is on straight, he's going to put some guys on notice to say, hey, maybe I need to step my game up because we may need to clear a 53-man roster spot for this guy on game day, and I might be the guy that's inactive to give him a shot. Now, like you said, Amanda, Gallup's contract, you can't get out of it this year. But that inactive list, that could be just as painful for a veteran who thinks he's supposed to be a star of the team.
Well, I wouldn't even mind if it wasn't so quick and he had time to learn the playbook. This wouldn't be a bad game to see, to kick the tires and see what he's got. Yeah. So,
and to be transparent, stranger things have happened. I would be highly surprised if we see him within the month of November. He doesn't know the playbook, like you just said, right, Amanda. he has not played in an NFL game in 4 years. Now the guy's a freak.
2018.
Yeah, the guy's a freak, but there's a difference between going out in the field and going out in the film and on the field and playing and actually playing in an NFL game. So I'm keeping my expectations low on him, but like the lunatic said, he's 6'4", he's a real threat. If he gets in practice and they're throwing up jump balls and red zone drills, and he's coming down with it over Gilmore and Bland, they're going to give him some opportunities, even if it's 1 or 2 a game. And that's going to make a couple of guys on this team real uncomfortable. And I like that.
Well, just to Sydney's comment, I see your comment, Sydney. I wouldn't say we're doing another Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper should have never been cut. And I don't think – I'm just going to say that we should have never given Gallup that contract coming off of an ACL. That was – the front office was – I don't know what they were thinking, especially when you look at the way the contract is structured. It is an insane amount of money. I think that if we were to cut him, I think I looked, it was $8 million to cut him. If we cut him at the end of the season, it was $8 million. If we do post June 1st, we'd eat $8 million and then $4 million in 2025, I think is what the numbers look down to. So I don't know what their deal is with it, but I don't think I'd call it doing another Amari Cooper, because Amari Cooper should have never left the team. Yeah. That was Michael Gallup's doing nothing but honestly wasting a roster spot for someone who probably could do better. But because of the money, he's on the field.
Yeah.
That's my opinion of it. So.
And also, we know this team well. They don't like to give up on draft picks. Michael Gallup did show a little bit of promise his first 2 years, 800 yards, 2 years in a row. I think the team was hoping he would take that next leap and make the loss of Amari Cooper a little bit less harsh, and it just never developed. And we're paying for it this year. I think we'll get out of it next year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this team does with him over the rest of this season, as well as when the offseason hits.
Well, Jalen Tolbert showing, flashes out there too. I'm seeing and it's his second year and he's improving. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him start taking more of Gallup snaps too. So.
Yeah. Quick question, Amanda, just to get your thoughts. I wish I had the 53-man roster to pull up. Let's say 2 weeks from now, this guy goes into practice and he's just balling. And we decide, you know what, he's too good to keep on a practice squad. Let's just give him a contract. Who's gonna not who's gonna get cut, because that's another story in itself. Who's gonna be the inactive guy? Because we're not going into a game with 6 receivers.
Well, Gallup doesn't play special teams, so I'm just gonna. I would look. It would really depend on the way Gallup, performs the next couple games, because Jalen Tolbert plays special teams. That's you've got him in special teams, and Gallup doesn't. Maybe it would be like you said, a shock. Yeah, maybe it'd be a shock to the system. Make him inactive. Kind of like when you get in trouble in class and the teacher makes an example of you. This team is. The coaching staff and the front office seem to accept mediocrity at times. And it really bugs me, because we have the personnel and we have the staff to even go out and do big things, but we're undisciplined. And I think, for drops, set them, make him inactive for a game. Look at the games that come up. You got the Panthers, we got the Giants this week, and then Panthers next week. 2 teams that probably are far-fetched to win another game. I mean, I don't think the Giants, it'd take a miracle with the way they're set up right now to win another game. They have an actor playing quarterback this week. Last I checked. So I don't know. I'd make Gallup inactive. I know people probably won't agree with me because you're paying him a lot of money, but I don't see the point of putting him out there to drop some balls. If this guy's going to be the better player, he's cheaper. Next year, look to trade Michael. There's people who would take Michael Gallup still. There's people out there who would trade for him. You might not get much, but hell, we let go of Amari Cooper for a 5th-round pick.
Right.
Take a 6th and send Michael up the river.
And the lunatic said Turpin. Question the lunatic: if Turpin's inactive, who's your kick returner and your punt returner? That's the big problem. Special teams do matter.
Well,
Just
see, they had Dowdle returning the ball there. What didn't they have Dowdle do it? I think I saw
he
Rico do
does
it.
play
Return.
that.
It was okay. It wasn't, but it wasn't. It's not a Turpin. Turpin's a game changing. He's a game changer.
Right.
And then he's really gotten kind of into the offense too. I mean, look, he scored. Look at the touchdown. You go back to the 49ers game with that touchdown he had. I mean, he's fast. We don't use him correctly, but I would never make Turpin inactive. Sorry, diluted tick.
Yeah.
You're awesome, but I would never put him on the inactive list.
Yeah, I would have to push back on you on that one as well, the lunatic. Maybe Tolbert, maybe, but like you said, Tolbert plays special teams as well. And if Gallup's only giving you 2 catches a game and he's playing 40% of the snaps, why not take a shot?
Got to try it. What's it going to hurt, in one of those games?
All right, guys, let's move on. We're at 36 minutes, so we're a little bit over the halfway point. We got one more storyline to talk about, and then we'll go into our key matchups and our over-unders. So the next storyline talking about is just looking on the Giants side of the football, and they are a mash unit out there of injuries. Just looking at this right here, you got your starting quarterback out with the ACL injury. You got your backup quarterback out on IR right now. Your best receiving threat is injured.
Darren Waller.
And your right tackle has now been reported to be week to week. So you're missing, you can definitely 3 key offensive players. You can say 4 because your backup quarterback's important because your starter's out. I mean, what do you think they do this week? Because this is going to be. I wish I had the
your
music.
image. Your image makes me want to sing the music. So that's a good show. Okay, it's a great.
It is a good show. So yeah, they got a lot of injuries that they have to deal with, and the reason I put this up here is because looking at this team, they only average 11 points per game, and they give up 24, and the turnover differential is -4. Like we talked about last week, you get this many turnovers, you give up this many. If your number is negative, that means your offense is giving it up more your defense. This was with all their starters, by the way. So this is not like they've been playing with backups all year. This is Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Darren Waller. This is the offense they're getting.
In Daniel Jones' defense, I think he out for 3 games. The past 3 games, he came back for 1 and he was hurt again. Poor guy, man. It always on a contract year. They gave him that big contract. I mean, it's just there's something, I don't know what it is. It's like the football curse. People get big contracts and they get injured.
Yep. It's only going to get worse for the Giants, and I think that starts this week.
Oh.
Ryan Solo saying we're going to stomp them, and that's kind of what I was leading to with our next storyline. And Jeff saying we're going to put this team away by halftime. So that takes us to our next storyline, and the question is, if we're going to put this team away early, we have a quarterback that we traded for, and we do not know what we have in him. He has NFL experience, but he hasn't played here. He's been inactive every game this year. Question of the day for you guys in the comments: should Trey Lance be active for this week's game in the situation we're up 40-0 at halftime, and he come in and play the second half? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Amanda, we'll start with you. What do you think? Should we make him active this week?
Sorry, my oldest just got home from his date. I had to call someone to get the door. So, okay. Everyone wants to know why we don't put Trey in, when we are in these blowout games. And a lot of people, it doesn't seem to understand what the situation is. So Trey Lance can't play unless Cooper and Dak are hurt, which we don't want that, of course. So the only way we're going to see him is if this coaching staff decides, okay, we're going to make Cooper Rush our, emergency quarterback in one of these games against these teams coming up that, have terrible records. I think that it would be an ideal situation. A lot of fans want to see what we have. I mean, I know that I'm in the smaller of opinion among Cowboys fans. I do not think Trey Lance is what people think Trey Lance is. I just don't think so. And then, you get him out there and you see him thriving against a team like the Giants, people are going to get, set their expectations a little too high because it's the Giants.
Just like the Lunatics comment.
Exactly. See, I don't know. I think there's no reason to not let him have a shot. I mean, what did we trade him for? If you're not going to let him at least get in-game activity and blowouts, are you going to take his 5th-year option next year, which I think is like $24 million?
Yep.
$24 million if you're going to exercise that 5th-year option. And you've got until I think middle of March to do so. So you've got to make a decision. Is this the direction your team's going to go? Not to mention you got Dak with a $59 million cap hit next year. You got to extend him. I mean, you got to, or you're going to be in the cap nightmare. So if you want to see if that's your future, you got to figure it out. And you don't figure that out in the off season. You figure it out in real live gameplay. So I would personally go ahead and make him active and make Cooper your inactive player. We know what Cooper Rush has. We've seen what Cooper Rush has in games. He carried us last season. So that's what I think we should do. But I don't think they're going to do it.
So going back to Jeff's comment, how about just carry 3 quarterbacks, which is kind of along the lines I'm thinking. Make all 3 of them active, and then go short at another spot. We should be up by so much if we make our 4th defensive end or our 5th safety inactive in place of him. Would that make that big of a difference?
Well, but in big blowout games, you pull your starters, so that puts you short there. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could carry all 3, but it's risk reward type of things. I do think they need to let him play. I mean, what was the point of trading for him if he's going to ride the bench the whole year? I mean, yes, Tyson, he is under contract next year, but we still got to decide what we're doing with him. I mean, you can,
like Amanda said, you have 5 days after the league year starts to determine whether or not you're going to pick up his 5th-year option. And once you make that determination, he's on the hook for $24 million for 2025. So it's more than just he's going to be the backup next year. What are you going to get in return for that 4th-round pick you gave up? Just getting a year and a half, and you don't even want to see him play? I mean,
what if you put him in, say you do play him, you play him this week, okay? Say you do put him in, you let him play, you get out there and let him get some playing time, and he balls out. But the Cowboys have they have no plan to keep him.
Right.
I still think Jerry got him for ulterior motives. I think they wanted to know what he knew about the 49ers offense. I know people think that's crazy.
That's a high draft pick to find out what the Niners.
I know, but look, I think it was an insurance policy too. I mean, Dak's been injured. He had the calf strain that set him last year, and then he had the shoulder the year before that, and then of course the ankle. Dak, I wouldn't say injury prone necessarily, but we have had he's had a string of bad luck. I mean, it happens as you get older, especially. I don't know. I'd like to see what we have in him, but at the same time, he knows that. I mean, hell, it's such a bad team we're playing. Wouldn't it be something if Dak was inactive and they just let him go out, but 2 backups go out? I'm not saying that'll happen. Please, no. I don't expect that.
But and I know Tyson's kind of giving pushback on this, but my question is, we gave up a 4th-round pick for the guy, and this team really values mid-round picks. If we're not going to give him a chance to play in a situation where he won't affect the outcome of the game, what is he here for? Because Cooper Rush is still here, and more likely than not, I think Cooper Rush signed a 2-year deal, so
he did.
He'll be here next year as well. So are we just saying we gave up a 4th-round pick to have a weekly inactive guy? It's kind of a weird situation going back to why they did it.
Well, and that's something else too. Maybe he does. But if you do let him play and he balls out, then you've got maybe some trade bait next year if you have no intention of keeping him. Maybe you can get that pick back. I still don't understand the trade. I was not a fan. That was something that was out of left field. I never expected that to happen.
Oh, I was not a fan of the trade either.
I thought it was stupid. I thought it was a wasted pick. I don't comprehend that. It didn't do nothing for us. Still hadn't done anything. So at least get something out of it.
Yeah. So I see like the lunatic is saying he signed a 2-year deal. We can get out of it. But if Cooper Rush is a solid backup, why would you get out of that deal? And he's only old.
Yeah, he's a proven backup. I mean, he won 5 games last year, and he only lost to this team that went and represented the NFC in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a pretty good record. That's proven. Trey Lance is right now is not proven anything. He's proven that he couldn't beat out Sam Darnold in Kyle Shanahan's system.
Right. Now
That's what he proved.
This is off-season talk. We're going too far down the rabbit hole. But great dialogue nonetheless. And Tyson, the lunatic, I agree with you guys. I don't think the fifth-year option is getting signed, but trading him for a fourth-round pick to be inactive all this year, and then maybe you let Cooper Rush go, which are you trading? I would trade Cooper Rush. I wouldn't just cut him.
Oh yeah, there's value there for
There's value
sure.
there. So
Exactly.
it's going to be a great story to watch for the offseason. I just wanted to bring it up to get the temperature of Cowboys Nation before we move on, because honestly, there's not a lot to talk about with this game. But the show has to go on.
Look, stranger things have happened. Okay, not one of us expected us to walk into Arizona and get embarrassed, but here, we got that on our record too. So.
Yeah. So, guys, let's continue on with the show. We're at 46 minutes. You guys have been great with the comments. Let's keep the comments rolling. We're going to get to the more interactive part of the show. So we're going to talk about a couple of key matchups, and then we're going to go to over-under. So let's get into it and talk about some of the key matchups to watch in this week's game.
Key matchups.
I always got to start with the top. D-Law plays amazing against the Giants. No matter what coordinator they have, what quarterback, who's on the offensive line, D-Law balls out against the Giants. And this week, their starting right tackle is injured, Evan Neal, and he's going to be going against a journeyman named Tyree Phillips. Definitely going to be a matchup to watch because, like I said, D-Law always puts his best foot forward in this Giants game. Talking about any other key matchups, I see the comments are still kind of going back and forth with the Trey Lance talk.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Trey
all
Lance,
kind of agree. It was a dumb move.
It brings up that's been a big topic the entire season since we acquired him. Everybody talks about Trey.
Yeah. So let's keep the key matchups going along. I got another key matchup to talk about, and if you guys have a key matchup that you like, put it in the comments, and if we don't cover it here, we'll talk about it in a second. The next key matchup is of course CeeDee Lamb against Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson follows CeeDee Lamb. He followed him last game. Watching the past 2 weeks, he's been following the number one corner. So I expect Adoree Jackson to follow CeeDee Lamb in the slot this week. Jackson's been struggling. The rookie that they drafted, he's not ready to go in the slot. He's not a slot guy. And then the other two guys they have, a guy named Cordell Flott and Trey Hawkins, both rookies. They're not ready to go in the slot either. They just have to stay on the boundaries. So I'm expecting to see a lot of CeeDee Lamb inside, just torching Adoree Jackson, kind of like he did in the last game.
Well, wouldn't it be something if he went for 200 this week? I mean, he's been, let's see, it was a 160 something against the Rams and then 191 last week. I mean, if that's the trend and it continues, you should expect him to, go for around 200 this week. So,
yep.
If we don't get too far ahead. So.
Yeah. So we got a couple of good matchups that we can look at. Now we got to talk about one of the not so good ones, and going back to Terrence Steele. Kayvon Thibodeau has been a baller the past couple of weeks. I think he has like 4.5 sacks in the past 5 weeks, and I think they're gonna put him on Steele's side just to take advantage of that mismatch. So definitely something you got to pay attention to as the game progresses, because they traded away their best defensive tackle. Their other pass rushing defensive end, Ojulari, looks like he's going to be out. So if they have any chance of generating a pass rush, it's going to be having to take advantage of the Thibodeau-Steele mismatch.
I really hope we put someone there to help him, because anyone who watched the game against the Eagles can easily see that that's the weak point on this offense. So I really hope that we're prepared for that. I mean, like I said, I don't get paid to coach the NFL, but if I did, sometimes I think that I can see mismatch better than McCarthy can. So they've got to put someone over there. Someone that's where I really miss Zeke, because Zeke was just excellent at at pass protection. That's one of those things I do miss about Zeke. Pollard's gotten better, and he does pick up his blocks now. It's much improved, but still makes me nervous. It makes me nervous for Dak's health. We'll see. Thibodeau's been really good. I mean, he gave us trouble in week 1. I mean,
He did.
He gave us trouble in week 1. So we also can think, just on another note, I do wonder if Steele's ACL, if that, that first year back is rough, because he had played exceptional last year up until that injury. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just, he's not fully back. We'll see, because we just gave him that big contract too. So maybe that's it. He got his money and now he doesn't care, which it seems to be that's another trend in the NFL: get paid and then disappear.
Yeah, that's
so we'll see. But
also,
they could cause us. Thibodeau could cause us some big problems this week if they don't put someone over there to help him.
Yeah. Steele has been underperforming this year, and we got to give the Giants, the Eagles, their credit. Their pass rushers are elite. We talked about this during the show.
Amazing.
Reddick has averaged a sack a game since he returned from injury, and then Sweat has like 5.5 sacks himself. So there were some good matchups that they took advantage of with Steele, talented guys. Thibodeau, while he's young and talented, I wouldn't put him on their level just yet, but he can make some moves if given the opportunity. And the Lunatic saying Steele's been playing like this all year.
Yeah.
Ryan Solo saying if he doesn't get help, our defense will have to win us the game.
Well, they did the first week. They two defensive scores, I think.
Yep.
Right?
Two that game. All right, so let's keep the show moving along. I got two interesting matchups that I want to talk about with some rookies for the Giants, and one of them is at the quarterback position. I was talking to Amanda about this a little bit before the show, and we got Tommy DeVito, 4th round pick, getting his second start. End up watching last week's game, and he's another Illinois guy, like a lot of the athletic quarterbacks in the league. Runs a 4.5, strong arm. I described him, looking at him play, like a Ben DiNucci without the 3/4 throwing motion. He's a boom or bust quarterback. He's always looking for the deep ball. He likes to run around because he's sneaky athletic. I could see him giving us a few problems here and there if we underestimate him, if they just let him go out there and say, hey, just play backyard football. Brian Dable is really good with mobile quarterbacks. Saw him with Josh Allen. This kid, I don't want to say he has any Josh Allen in him because that would be putting too much on him, but the mobility and the arm strength is definitely there to make some plays if given the opportunity. And I put this directly on Malik Hooker because, like I said, this guy loves to throw deep, and we play a lot of cover 1. And then also Marquise Bell, because at some point I think he's going to have to kind of spy him a little bit to make sure he doesn't get out of control, because this kid is going to run a lot in this game, I think.
I'd run from our defense too, Marcus.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I would too.
But yeah, I think he's going to surprise some people with his athleticism, and there's no tape on him.
And we always struggle, and I don't know what it's one of the consistent things about this team. We struggle against teams that we should obliterate. So it would not surprise me to see this guy give us problems. It's just the nature of the Cowboys football team at this. It's the way it goes. So now, honest question: is this guy related? Is this like Danny DeVito's like nephew?
Now that I don't know.
It's just because he kind of, you could kind of see it. Maybe I was just curious. Who knows?
You never know. Looking at last week's game, I mean, he did have a 75% completion percentage. He did throw for almost 200 yards, had a touchdown. I think he did have a fumble in that game. Like I said, boomer bust guy. Could definitely make a couple of plays if given the opportunity. And going into our key matchups, going to our second one, this will be the key matchup that I think you'll watch with him because, like I said, he loves to throw deep, and Jalen Hyatt is the deep threat guy. And if he gets lined up against Stephon Gilmore, we talked about this for several weeks. Our cornerback, specifically Gilmore, they look like different guys when they're playing against speed receivers. And Jalen Hyatt can definitely take the top off of a defense if given a chance.
So you think that they're going to put Stephon on what's Jalen's time? Is it 4.5? Is that what it was? A 4.5? I don't remember. I want to say it was a 4.5, but I don't want to be wrong. I don't have it handy.
Let me see. I pull it up really quick. His time was he was a 4.4 runner.
Okay, 4.4. Yeah. So you think they're going to put Stephon on him, and not a Deron Bland? You think that's the right?
I don't think they will. I think that's what the opportunity may present because we don't travel with receivers, so I can see some opportunities where Hyde gets put on Gilmore.
I really am looking forward to seeing what is it, Wandale Robinson with Deron Bland. I expect to pick 6 this game. I'm excited to see that matchup. I know it's not in our notes, but I really like Wandale. He's been pretty interesting as we go on, and he's another boomer bust player, but he is pretty. I've had him a few times in some of my fantasy slates, and he's pretty good. And that's why I wondered why you wouldn't put Stephon on the bigger, slower guy. I mean, but Dan doesn't do that, so
yeah. I mean, and they have some speedy guys in New York. They just aren't performing right now. But I just feel like be mindful of Tommy DeVito because he has a strong arm and he can get outside the pocket and make a couple plays. Because if you guys remember that first game, that first drive looked really good until they blocked that kick with Danny Dimes out there running around and making some plays and getting them in the red zone. So just be mindful of that. I'm not saying we should be concerned about it in terms of win or loss, but just something to pay attention to during the course of the game. The Lunatic asked the question, will we defer and score first? Will we come out flat? 2 things I want to watch early because that only time New York Giants will be in game. Definitely agree with that. And Jeff saying 40 time and game speed are 2 different things. Now, in my opinion, Jeff, he plays up to his 40 time when you go back and watch him coming out of Tennessee. The guy made some big plays. You go back to that Alabama game last year. So he can make some plays if given opportunity. The Lunatic saying Philly may just give us a heavy dose of Barkley and keep it mainly on the ground. I think you mean the Giants, but I got what you're saying. You corrected yourself. You know what? Watching this team play, Dayball refuses to run the ball. It's almost like, screw it. I'm a passing coordinator. We're going to give our quarterbacks a chance to win the game, regardless of our best player being a running back. That's definitely a matchup to watch in terms of passing game, but they're not going to run it consistently.
Yeah, I've noticed that too with Barkley. It's why did you pay him? Why? I mean, y'all argued with him in the offseason over that. Why? If you're not going to use him?
Yeah,
it's been because his numbers have they've actually decreased quite a bit. I pay attention to that. I like Barkley.
Yeah,
he's a good runner, and that's the best player on the team, and they don't utilize him. I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah. All right, guys. So thank you for sticking with us. We're at 1 hour. We got one more segment, over unders, where we want to get you guys' opinion on some of the statistics in this week's game, just to see the temperature of Cowboys Nation. I got one more key matchup. You know, we can't leave the show without talking about the Lion, Micah Parsons. And he will be going up this week against rookie John Michael Schmitz. Quality center. Hasn't gotten to his strength yet. A little bit clumsy, in my opinion, when I watch him play for a center. It's going to be a great matchup for Micah Parsons. And this one's going to be a major determinant early because I think we're going to test this one very quickly. because John Michael Smith, if he's not getting help, he's not ready for what he's about to see.
And do you know one thing that this team really has going for us is that
Yeah.
when we are angry after a loss, I feel sorry for the Giants because I'm afraid they might get smacked around. Because I mean, we lost in such a. I mean, it was a good game, it was a great showing, but I mean, they're pissed off. The players are going to be pissed. They've got a point to prove. So I expect a really physical, pretty brutal defensive game. I think we're going to slap them around. So
Yeah, I agree. Looking forward to seeing a dominant early performance. I'm actually going to the game, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I want to see a lot of big plays, be able to stand up out of my seat the entire game, give a lot of high fives, and hopefully not to fight my way out of Cowboys Stadium with some unruly Giants fans. But yeah, the Lunacy saying they pissed off and we at home. Definitely, definitely not a good recipe when you're dealing with a team that's coming in wounded and they feel like they have to make a point. And we know anytime a team comes into Jerry World, that's like coming to the Super Bowl for most teams. So something to just be aware of.
well, I will say we've played exceptionally well at home lately. That's good.
Yeah.
So, what 11 in a row at home. So,
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's more than that.
is it 12 now? Was it 12 as of
I
last
think
week? I knew
so.
it was 11 or 12.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff is going to the game with me as we're making signs. I got a couple of We Them Boys signs. I may bring my Bluff City Cowboy sign that's sitting behind me on this side. See if I can get on camera. But yeah,
Jeffrey needs to make a big old DC for L sign.
yeah, Jeff, you should make a DC4L
Yeah.
sign and hold it up at the game.
I'll look for you. And I'll
As-
send you something if you do it.
Oh, you heard that, Jeff? You just got your bonus room done, so something to look into. How about this, Jeff? Me, you, and your brother, and the other guy going. We paint DC4L on our chest, and for 10 minutes we stand up with it. I couldn't even finish.
Do it. Okay, look, if you do that, I will send every one of you a signed photo. I'm not joking. I will make it happen. And I'm not kidding. I can get it. So you do that, and I will
Oh, my
send you
goodness.
each a signed photo because you'll get up on the jumbo, like the giant screen. So you do that, and I'll make it
I'm-
happen.
If all four of us were shirtless, I'm very sure we get on the jumbo screen.
You got to do it.
Nah,
Did you hear
nah,
that, Jeff? Hold him to it.
I'm wide enough. I could probably get all four letters in that show on my chest. But yeah. All right, so let's keep the show moving. We're at an hour, 3 minutes. Thank you guys for all the great questions and comments. We're at the last segment of the show, so let's keep the engagement rolling as we go into our over-unders for this week's game.
Over under.
So for you guys that aren't familiar with the show, over under is the segment where I'll give you a statistic and I want you guys to let me know whether we will go over or under on that statistic. And Sydney Byron saying meet me at the game. Sydney, if you could send me a message on Facebook. Let us know what area you're going to be sitting in. We'll be hanging out the Miller Lite Stadium a little bit before the game, so hopefully we can connect and take a picture.
Sydney, come pick me up.
Also, we'll be at the rally day at the stadium on Saturday as well. So if you're gonna be there, let me know that also. We love to connect with supporters of the show. So let's get into it, Amanda. We got a couple of over unders, and then we'll get you guys out of here. So the first over under, we haven't talked about them all show, but Tony Pollard has been having what I would consider an average season. I wouldn't say it's bad. I just say it's average. And for this team, average is disappointing. He's been averaging about 50 yards a game. That's going to get him right at 1,000 yards for the year, which is kind of on par of where he's been. But you expect his role to be a little bit bigger. But like we said before, this week we expect an early kind of get out ahead and run the clock out situation. Their defensive line is a little bit down with the loss of Leonard Williams. He should have some opportunities in this game. So, over under 80 yards rushing for Tony Pollard this week's game. Get in the comments and let me know what you think. Amanda, what are your thoughts over under 80 yards rushing?
Well, for my fantasy team, I really need him to be over because it's been pretty lackluster, and I drafted him in hopes that he would, be pretty good. I've been pretty upset with him actually, but I think it would be really close. I see him in the 65 to 75 range. I do
Mhm.
not see him going over. I do not because we're throwing more than we're running. I mean, if we get up really high, I mean, if this game gets way out of control for the Giants, we're going to pull him. So I just don't. I
Good point.
see. I don't know. I'm going under very, very 75. That's what I'm thinking
Okay.
with the TD, with the touchdown.
You know what? I didn't think about that scenario of us pulling him early in the game, so that's definitely something to think about. It looks like the comments are pretty split on this. Ryan Solo saying he'll definitely get it. Jeff going under. Rachel going over definitely. Tyson says Tony will get over 100 this week. That's kind of where I was leaning as well, Tyson. The Lunatic saying under because we get a good dose of Rico. So the Lunatic agrees with what Amanda just said. And I'm kind of thinking about that as well. Janine says she thinks we'll be throwing a lot, so it'll be under. Sydney says Ryan he'll be average 50 yards, kind of where he has been all year. Jeff says Rico Dowdle will finish the game like you,
Yep.
Amanda. And Tyson, again, I'm kind of with you on this, Tyson. I think he breaks one this week. I think this is the week we finally see the 20, 30-yard run that kind of
I
helps
think
boost
he
the
breaks.
average.
Okay, in that note, I think he actually breaks a receiving one. I think it's going to be something from the slot. He's going to pop up in the slot like we saw. What was it against the Chargers? Was that the
Uh-huh.
game that we saw? That's what I'm expecting more than the run. I think we're going to see him break one, and even with the touchdown with receiving. I don't see it with the rushing. I just
Okay.
don't, and it's because we've really moved away from the run. We're not establishing the run.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough argument to fight against. I'm still gonna lean over just because I feel like he's gonna break one, but I definitely see your point. We'll find out on game day. So we talked about one side of the field. Let's talk about the other running back, Saquon Barkley. As we just talked about earlier in the show, Amanda and I both agreed they don't use him like they should in the running game, but he's a very talented receiver.
He
So
is.
over under 90 yards total for Saquon Barkley. No Darren Waller, a bunch of underperforming wide receivers. Quarterback's best friend is the check down with the rookie. Over under 90 total yards for Saquon Barkley.
Hey Mendoza, I just want to say hey. I saw him pop up for the first time. So what's up, Mendoza?
Yeah, Mendoza, thank you for joining. And Ryan Solo saying slightly over. And Jeff has a good question. Jeff, we'll get to that in a minute. Tyson says over. Yeah, appreciate you tuning in, Mendoza. I know you had a lot going on the past week, so I appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes of your time, giving us some of your thoughts and comments. Mendoza saying under. Jeff with the cop out push.
Ooh. That's
And
not a cop out. I was going to say the same thing, but no, not really. But it's not a cop out. I got your back, Jeff.
you can't be on camera without committing, Amanda. You got to
Oh,
give us an
okay,
over.
fine.
We'll let the
I,
comments do a push, but you got to give us an over under.
okay. So I think, and this is my bold prediction, we will hold the entire Giants offense to 160 yards total. So I think he's going to be under.
Okay. Amanda giving us an early bold prediction from our pregame
Yeah.
shows. So this was pretty split in the comments as well. It's about 50-50 over and under. I'm leaning over. You talked about Tony Pollard with the big catch. I think Saquon sneaks one out as well. Gets a 30, 40-yard catch. He normally gets a big play against us every time we play him. I think this week will be more than usual. And on top of that, for some reason, their coach refuses to pull starters, which makes no sense to me. So we're probably going to see Barkley, even in a blowout, at least until the fourth quarter. And if we start
I was
pulling
going to
guys early, he's going to get some big plays.
Well, that was actually after I said it. I'm like, well, unless we go into, one of those Dolphins Denver game and we're so up there they got to pull everybody, and that's when, garbage time, as it's called, that would be where he's going to get the most of his yards. I would expect is in garbage time.
Yeah. But the last time we played them, they still refused to run the ball. So you just never know what you're going to get with Brian Daboll.
Fired.
Yeah, somebody made the comment earlier. I think it was the lunatic. Let me see if I can find that comment. He said he's gonna
Get
get
fired
fired
his own way, right?
his own way, right? Exactly. Yeah, here we go. The lunatic said Dayball's getting fired his way. I can respect that. Off-season talk. I don't know if he's gonna get fired.
Well,
We'll
I
see.
mean, they could. It probably because of the injuries. I mean, that's a good excuse for
Yeah.
anybody as you look at the injuries. So that's one thing. So
It'll be an interesting dynamic because, in my opinion, I don't think he liked Daniel Jones. Like, I don't think Daniel Jones was the selling point of him taking this job. I think that $40 million contract caught everybody on his coaching staff by surprise, and they're just kind of dealing with it. So
well, they're stuck with him now.
they're stuck with him for at least this year and next year. And if he doesn't recover from that injury, his third year is guaranteed for injury. So if he comes back,
Okay.
let's assume it's a 1-year injury because it can be. If he comes back in November and they say, you know what, we're just going to shut you down again for the year, see what you come back with next year. If he gets to March 1st and he's still saying, you know what, I'm still having some problems, they got to guarantee that year also. So they could be stuck with Daniel Jones for 3 more years. So it's going to be interesting to see if they draft a quarterback. If they draft a quarterback, I think Daboll gets to keep his job.
The Giants signing Daniel Jones was like my security blanket to tell people, let's never talk about how much money Dak makes again, because it's just the market. I understand that, but I don't understand why anyone would give Daniel Jones $40 million a year.
Yep.
I mean, his legs, but we saw what happened when he's been miserable when he's been out there this year.
He has been. And for a team to be in several blowout games and the starting quarterback is still out there taking a punishment, that lets you know what the coach thinks about him, because he should not have been out there in the Dallas game. What was the other game that they just kept getting? Was it the Vikings?
Was it the Vikings? I don't know. Hold on.
They were just getting destroyed, and that team was just teeing off on them. Because I remember the linebacker had like 2 sacks, and then each edge rusher had like 6 sacks on them. Yeah, look that up for me. But yeah, that game was the sign at like, you know what? This coach doesn't like this quarterback.
So there was the Cowboys blowout.
It was Seattle.
Seattle was 24-3 on October 2nd. Yep.
Yeah, it was the Seattle game, because I remember a linebacker had 2 sacks, and then the defensive ends had like 2 sacks each, like 7 sacks between 3 guys or something ridiculous. Yeah, and Ireneo saying Jones was supposed to be the saving grace, and he has not been so far. Sidney Brown saying they all have the yips. Tyson saying they're 100% taking the quarterback this year.
They have to. I mean,
any team would be stupid not to take a quarterback this year. I mean, even Dallas should consider taking a quarterback this year. This is
a really deep quarterback draft.
Yeah.
It is.
Now, they say that every year, but this year, unlike any other, I could see 14 quarterbacks in the first 100 picks.
Well, see, I think that Dallas should take one too. I mean, you got to get someone to prepare. Dak is getting he's 30, so you have to extend him. I say you extend him 2 to 3 years. You want someone to learn behind him and then have a emergency plan. So anybody should take it. It's really a good quarterback draft this year. So
I agree, Tyson. Yeah, they should take one with their first pick. Jeff saying
they won't have a quarterback. They won't have a QB. If you look at, with Daniel Jones just now tearing that ACL, he won't start next year. It would be hard pressed to think he would be back. Look at Kyler Murray. He's a perfect example. So they have to.
Yeah. Mendoza talking about his guy to Florida State, Jordan Travis. Like I said, this quarterback draft is so deep. A guy like Jordan Travis, who in most years would be a no question top 25 first round pick, he may fall to the second. So it's going to be some really good quarterbacks in that second round, where a team like us, who we have our quarterback position kind of set for a year or two, we could take a guy, let him sit for a year, and then I mean, you've got a top 10 talent just ready to be unleashed in 2025 if we don't resign that.
Yeah, Aurelio, I agree completely. That's got to be the first pick this week. That the first pick of our like the first round this year. If we don't go offensive line, I'm gonna go to headquarters myself down in Frisco. That would just be ridiculous. It's our weak point. That is truly our weak point right now. Is that line?
Yeah, Jeff saying Jerry loves Arkansas. KJ Jefferson's a guy from his hometown, quarterback out of Arkansas. Great quarterback, great kid. That's another guy. He may have been a borderline first round, early second round guy. He may fall late second. If he falls that far, I definitely consider him because all he's missing is a good weight program to control his weight. And that's pretty much all that kid is lacking at this point. If he's motivated. Scott Wisniewski saying don't take the Giants lightly. And I also believe the Eagles are very worried. I'd be surprised if the Giants give us any threat this week, but you never know.
I mean,
Ryan
yeah,
Solo,
I would be. I'd be hard pressed to think I mean, I'm not counting it out. I don't think it's the quintessential trap game like Arizona was. This is just a team that's so battered. It's so broken. I mean, they really are just limping to the finish line at this point. They just got to get through the year.
All right, 3 more quick over-unders and then we'll get out of here. So got to talk about some of the key players in on our offense from last week. Talked about this earlier in the show with our wide receiver and our tight end. So the Giants, 2 things normally happen in the Giants game. D-Law goes off and one of our tight ends has a good game.
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson had a great game last week. Over under 60 yards receiving for Jake Ferguson. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Tyson saying we aren't taking a quarterback in this year's draft. Not enough picks to do so. We already gave up our pick for a quarterback. Yeah, that's a good point, Tyson. But if we did take a quarterback in the second round, I wouldn't be upset with it because these are some very talented guys who I think are going to drop unless a couple of these guys look at the writing on the wall and say, you know what, maybe I can get a NIL deal to make a couple $100,000 million bucks, stay in college another year, and then come back when the draft isn't as loaded as it is this year. Kind of like what I think Shadur Sanders is going to do. And maybe Caleb Williams, but that's another offseason topic as well. I see we got Special Posting joining us from YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. I see the over-unders came in quick for Jake Ferguson. Everybody's still on a high from last week's game. A lot of overs. Like they came in almost immediately. Tyson being the lone wolf on Nielsen saying under. Tyson, get in the comments and let me know why you think Jake Ferguson goes under 60 yards this week. I'm just curious about that.
I've known Tyson for 6 years now. The man's been in my home. He's a negative Nancy. That's what he's a negative Nancy, aren't you, Tyson?
I thought he was just trying to be a contrarian for the comments.
Oh no, but he's usually spot on. I will give him that. He is.
I follow him as well.
I gotta give him that. Yeah, you know him. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me any.
Yeah,
if he's right. So
yeah. Before we get out here, guys, make sure you guys click that link, join the group. A lot of great content, a lot of prizes, a lot of contests. Hit up that DC4L link to
and I dropped the Patreon I'm dropping it now in there too. You're welcome to come check us out there. You can win all sorts of stuff. Sydney and there's Rachel and Yvonne. They can all tell you that you can win all sorts of awesome signed stuff there. So I dropped the link for y'all.
Sydney saying he's not wrong. The lunatic says if under is because we run the ball to run the clock and finish the game. And like we said before, starters may get pulled early. Schoonmaker's a second round pick. We talk about Trey Lance earlier in the show. We got to see what we got in this guy. So maybe the game gets away early and you give Schoonmaker a couple of quarters to see what he can do.
Was it week 1 or week 2 that all of our I think we had Hendershot, Schoonmaker, and Ferguson, didn't they all get in for a TD? Which week was that? I know it was pretty close.
You mean when they all dropped TDs?
Yeah, I think it was was it Week
No, that
2
was
or 1?
no, that was week 1 against the Giants.
Against the Giants. Okay, so
Yes.
maybe it happens again.
Yeah, Jeff didn't like the pick at all either. I'm with you. I'm still
Oh,
mad about
yeah.
I'm mad about Junior Fehoko, but I don't want to talk about that one. All right, guys, we got one more over under and we'll get out of here. CeeDee Lamb has been on a tear. We talked about the stats. Great game 3 weeks in a row. Going up against Adoree Jackson. Does CeeDee Lamb go over or under 120 yards receiving this week? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Where are you at on this one, Amanda? Over or under?
Well, I was joking when I said 200 would be awesome, but the issue with I'd like to say over, but because of the situation, now it can go completely opposite, but because I do expect this game to get pretty out of hand pretty quickly, it could be under just because we pull him. I mean, I really hope I want him to go over. I think that'd be exceptional. And the matchup is good for him to go over. But because we could pull him, and I hope we spread the ball around. I don't understand. I know CD's the number one, but we've got to use games like this to our advantage to really get our other receivers in the groove. We need to get Cooks in. Not Gallup. I think he needs to be on the bench. But like Tolbert, we need to get these other players involved. So I would like to see us use that. So I'm going to say 90 to 110. That's the more literal expectations. Okay. I'd love to see him go off, but I don't expect it to be like Philly, even though I'd like to see him do it.
I'm with Janine. I'm going over in the first half. Bold prediction. I'm riding with you, Janine. We're going over first half. If he sits in the second half, that's because of a job well done.
Tyson, I'd like to see Cooks have the best game too. I think that'd be awesome. We really need it.
Yeah. This would be a great game to do it.
Does.
Their corners, Trey Hawkins and what's the other rookie's name, the first round pick out of Mississippi State? Deonte Banks. They're talented long receivers, but they bite on double moves, and their long speed is not where it should be. I watched the game against the Commanders, and they were just having their way with those guys. So definitely Brandon Cooks will have some opportunities to get behind the secondary in this game. Jeff got 170 and 2 touchdowns, giving us an early bold prediction. Tyson says, I have respect for Jackson, so I believe Cooks will be targeted more. And Ireneo says he's going to have at least one knock the doors off home run, big play. Ooh. I'm kind of expecting the same thing. I'm just looking for a good game. And it could be mostly because I'll be at the game. So I want to be standing up high-fiving the entire time.
Well, I think this is on that note. I think this is the game. Turpin's just been so close to getting that kickoff return. This would be a really good game for him to be able to do that too. It's not one of our over-unders or our early predictions, but I think it's definitely possible this game.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's all we have for today's show. Thank you guys who were in the comments consistently. As I said, you guys fuel the Fifth Quarter podcast. So your great questions, your great comments, your great overall feedback is what keeps us going. We got JLT joining us for our last comment of the day, saying I would love to see the Giants win. Every loss for Cowboys is a gift. So I'm assuming you're a Giants fan. So we appreciate you joining us anyway. But
we live rent free in your heads. We know.
Exactly.
It's the nature.
So while you're there, JLT, be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow me at Bluff City Cowboys. So
he's an Eagles fan, Marcus.
Oh, he's an Eagles fan. Okay.
Oh, no comment. I'm gonna keep
my
mouth shut.
Thank you for joining, JLT. You can still hit me up at Bluff City Cowboys if you want to find out what's going on with the Cowboys team, because obviously you took the time to find this podcast and see what we're talking about. So thank you for joining us for this show. The Lunatic, follow his lead, share, like, and sub it up. Thank you, Sydney Byron. Definitely appreciate you for your support of DC4L as well as the Fifth Quarter podcast. And be sure, again, Sydney, get in my comments or get in my DMs. Let me know where you're going to be at so we can all link up at the stadium and get a photo. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for the show. Before we go, Amanda, let the people know what you got going on, where they can where they can follow.
So I'm Amanda. Most of you know me. I co-own DC for L. I am one of the original, I guess you could say, founders. It's a pleasure to be here for everybody, and it's just a pleasure to really have a community that's built by fans for the fans that you can come and express yourself, and be open without getting negative feedback and insults from people that love to jump in because sometimes they can only like to talk about they like to talk about us instead of their own team. You can check us out on Patreon, win all sorts of signed memorabilia. You can check us out on DC for L on the public page. And then you can check us out in the Facebook group. We have lots of contests, and we just would love to have you. So thanks for coming. We appreciate you all. And I just want to say thank you to Marcus for coming on and taking on the fifth quarter and being the host. We really appreciate you, Marcus. And I don't say it enough. We are so grateful for you. So,
yeah, glad to be a part of it. Definitely looking forward to seeing what this partnership has to offer. Jeff, you said you had a question that I overlooked. I'm sure just from coming over from the last show, we get a lot more comments now than we did before. So sometimes I overlook a few questions, but I think I found your question before we go. Why not start Dowdle and put Pollard in his complimentary role? If you heard the press conference from Mike McCarthy today, someone asked the question, why doesn't Dowdle get more snaps?
he likes his playing time.
He likes his playing time. Typical Cowboys front office coaching staff responds. We like our guys. We like our playing time schedule. So that's why you won't see Dowdle play in a starting role, because they're happy with the complimentary role that he has.
Do you think that it's the money? Just on that, do you think it's because of the paycheck that Pollard isn't being, that we don't feature Dowdle because of the money? I think it's very possible. I mean, we gave him $10 million on the tag, so I'm just curious.
I mean, along those same lines, last year when Zeke was here making $13 million and Pollard was making $2 million, Pollard was still in the 50-50 role with Zeke. So it could be money, but because of how they treated Zeke last year, I don't think that's the case. I think it's more of the front office just trying to be right. Like, they want to give Pollard every opportunity to prove that he can be the guy, so that next year, when they possibly try to give him a long-term extension, they can say, this is our next marquee running back for the future, like they did with Zeke before him.
Yeah.
And whoever else they tried to trot in at running back who underperformed before Zeke.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So a lot of offseason talk, just kind of spinning the wheels with all these comments, talking about Tony Pollard, talking about Michael Gallup, Trey Lance situations. Continue to stick with us. We're going to give you guys some great regular season content, but those offseason shows, just talking about free agency and the outlook of the team, are going to be really good. So, again, that's a great question, just like Sydney said. Jeff, appreciate that. So, if you guys want to find me, you can find me at Bluff City Cowboys on Facebook and on YouTube. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Help me on my path to get 1,000. I'm just letting JLT do his thing. We're at the end of the show. I appreciate you not being disrespectful, so you can make your little eagle spiels all you want, but I appreciate you not being disrespectful. And guys, when we have a guest in our house, we try to treat him with respect as well if we can. And as I say that, the Jeff says, let's try to be respectful. Appreciate you, JLT. You guys can find me at Bluff Cowboys on Twitter. This podcast will be aired on my Facebook, my YouTube, and my Twitter, Bluff Cowboys, every Wednesday, 8:30 Central Standard Time, as well as in the DC4L Facebook groups. So be sure to follow all those pages to get all your Cowboys content. We will see you guys next week at 8:30 Central Standard Time. I'll be in Dallas, so I'll see if I have time to do a pregame show on my computer. I'll try to carve away 20 minutes if I can before I go to the stadium, but if not, I will see you guys at 8:30 next Wednesday for a Victory Wednesday to celebrate this game and to look ahead against next week's game against the Carolina Panthers. So thank you guys for joining us for this week's episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. Definitely appreciate all your support, all your questions, all your comments. Continue to come back and follow us and continue to help us grow the DC4L Nation and the Fifth Quarter Podcast Nation. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Let's go, Cowboys, and we'll see you later.
Bye, y'all.